friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I thought that we would just do some nice fall cozy things, a fall cozy reading vlog, if you will. We're going to be doing some fall activities that are just cozy and fallish, also reading some great books as well. Here's the plan. We are going to be reading some wonderful cozy fall books. We're going to be drinking coffee and tea and just sitting under blankets and having a really cozy time. I also have a few things that I want to bake in this vlog. We're going to be doing that as well. Today we are going to start reading Assistant to the Villain. I have seen this book absolutely everywhere. It seems like everyone is reading this book right now, so I thought, why not just read it too? Everyone seems to be really enjoying it. I have heard a couple people say that they thought it was just okay, they didn't really get it, but I have already started this book. I'm a couple chapters in, and so far I think it's just so fun. It's a fantasy book, but it's almost like typical fantasy, or has all the elements of typical fantasy, and she's almost like exaggerating them and making fun of them and almost making them like a little satirical. So I think it's really funny because it's supposed to be ironic and ridiculous. At least I think it's supposed to be ironic and ridiculous. I mean, the story starts out with once upon a time. I mean, it's just like classic, stereotypical, ironic fantasy that she's writing it that way on purpose, and it's supposed to be a little bit ridiculous. And so I'm really enjoying it. If it wasn't like obviously supposed to be a little bit like ridiculous and just funny, then I wouldn't be having a very good time, because like as far as fantasy goes, it's not super complex and it's not super engaging. Like the plot isn't like super high stakes or anything, at least right now it's not. So the basic plot line of the story that I know so far, which is not very much, is there's this girl and she works for this person called the Villain, and she's trying not to be obsessed with her boss, but she's kind of obsessed with her boss, and he doesn't really like anyone, but he likes her. So like there's that dynamic going on, and I know there's like mermaids and dragons and kings and people who have magical powers and like all this kind of stuff. So far it's just a really good time. I don't necessarily think that this is going to be a book that ends up on my 5-star list, but so far it would end up on a recommendation list just because it's just fun. After we finished Assistant to the Villain, I thought that we would go ahead and read Harry Potter and the Cursed Child by J.K. Rowling. That will be second on our list. And lastly, if we have time, we'll be reading The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I am honestly so excited for this book. I'm almost more excited for this one than I am the Harry Potter one, just because I have not read an Ashley Poston book yet, and this one just seems really cute. So I'm going to start reading Assistant to the Villain now, and I'm just going to cozy up under a blanket and put on some fall ambiance music and have a good time. I have finished Assistant to the Villain. I was planning on giving you guys an update about 75% of the way through, and then, reading the rest of it and going from there. But that is not what I ended up doing. Once I got into this book, I was completely in. I got sucked in. I was at like 30-something% when I started reading this book yesterday, and I finished it by the time I went to sleep last night. Like I just devoured it, went straight through it. It was fast-paced and it was so fun. I really liked it. I'm giving it a 4-star, I think, or 4.25. I haven't quite decided yet which one I'm going to give it. It's nothing that's like out of this world phenomenal. Like it's not the most creative plot you've ever heard of. In fact, like I mentioned before, it just really leans into like the stereotypical fantasy and really kind of makes it a light and humorous twist on it. So it's nothing out of this world. It's nothing that's gonna like blow your mind as far as like the plot. In fact, the plot, in my personal opinion, is probably the weakest part. The reason why I really love this book is that the characters are just hilarious and you just love them. Like all of them. There's not a single character that I hate besides the one person who ended up being the mole. Obviously, you don't really like them. But like as far as like your main like cast of characters, I love every single one of them. They're fantastic and they're hilarious and it's fantastic. The way I've been explaining this book to people is, you know how you have those really like serious detective shows and like everything is so dramatic and it's so serious, but people really love them? I would consider that like normal fantasy. Things like Fourth Wing, ACOTAR, all that kind of stuff. They have humorous moments, but in general, you're supposed to take them a little bit more serious when they're not satirical. Then you have shows like Psych and Brooklyn Nine-Nine where like you have the mystery element to it, but it's just absolutely hilarious. That's what Assistant to the Villain is. It is the Psych of fantasy. And I think that's why I like it so much, because Psych is one of my favorite shows and I just like love that kind of sense of humor. Assistant to the Villain was definitely one that I really liked, even though it wasn't like blow your mind amazing as far as like this really complex plot or anything like that. It was just hilarious and I loved it, and I would definitely recommend if you like series like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or Psych or that kind of sense of humor, Assistant to the Villain might be something that you really enjoy. There's no spice in it and there's minimal cursing. So if you're looking for something that's more clean, that's a fantasy and is light and fun, this is definitely the book for you. It's hilarious. Everyone's just silly in the book. I don't really know how else to describe it. It's like the plot is okay, but the characters are just funny. They do the silliest things, they say the weirdest things, and it's just humorous. So yeah, that's Assistant to the Villain. 4 or 4.25 stars. Haven't really decided yet. I meant to film more of it, but like I said, I sat down last night to read it, and after the reading clips that you guys saw, I was probably about 50% of the way through the book, and I was like, I'll read to 75%, then give an update and film some more, and I just completely devoured it. I looked down and I was like at like 92%, and I was just like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm not doing an update. And I just finished it and went to bed. So moving on, we are going to be reading next Harry Potter and the Cursed Child by J.K. Rowling. I don't think that this book is going to take us very long because it is only, watch it be really long. This is 308 pages, so it's not super long, and as most of you probably know, it is actually a play. It is not written as a novel, so that being said, it is going to take no time at all to just breeze through these pages. So this is the book that we're going to be reading next, and with this book, we are going to be doing some baking that coordinates with this book as well. So I am planning on making pumpkin pasties so we can have a fall treat while we read it that matches the book perfectly. So I think that will be a fun little fall treat to go along with this book. So we will dive into this book in a minute, but I actually forgot to mention something with Assistant to the Villain, so we're going to go back to that for a minute. So with Assistant to the Villain, I had a special treat planned for that book as well. I was planning on reading the book and then making whatever food they described in the book most often. And what they described in the book most often was what they called cauldron brew, which is basically coffee. So I made myself a nice cup of coffee, nice and sugary, just like Tristan likes it, the exact same. And I showed you guys making it, but I never actually mentioned why I made that cup of coffee outside of I wanted a cup of coffee, but it was supposed to tie into Assistant to the Villain. It was supposed to be the treat. It was supposed to be cauldron brew, just like Tristan had. With me getting so sucked into the book, I completely dropped the ball on talking to you guys about what that was supposed to be and that we were doing that at all. So that is what that was, because we were doing fall treats for all of our books if they mention anything. I have a quick little update for you guys. I am almost halfway through with Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I am almost done with Act 2, and there are 4 acts in total. It is, it's not that great. I knew that going in because I had been warned by people who had read this book that it's really just like not that great and that it's not really worth the read, but I was really curious about it and I really wanted new content in this world that I love, and I don't think that she's necessarily going to be writing anything else in this world. Though it would be really interesting if she like went back and and kind of did what Suzanne Collins is doing with like going back and writing President Snow's origin story and now going back and doing Haymitch's origin story, if she did that for like the Marauders or for Dumbledore, I guess she kind of did that with Fantastic Beasts. I think that was solely a movie. There's no like print for that. So another novel in the Harry Potter universe I would just like eat up. One of the hardest things about this book is that it is a play and not a novel. I think if it was a novel, first of all, the plot probably would have been better and more fleshed out because she obviously has the potential to make an amazing plot. But because it's a play, the way it flows is really weird and the plot itself is really weird and I'm not a huge fan of it and it's dramatic. I mean, everyone in the Harry Potter universe is a little dramatic, but like this is like a little over the top. As much as it's fun to see everybody, it's just really not that good. But that doesn't mean I'm not enjoying it. Because I'm such a diehard Harry Potter fan, it does make me enjoy the book more than I would if I was not a diehard Harry Potter fan. I don't know. I'm almost like just trying to get through the scenes where it's Albus and Scorpius. Is that his name? Yeah, Scorpius. And trying to get to the scenes where it's like Ron and Ginny and Hermione and Harry. So I'm obviously still more invested in the previous characters than I am in the new characters, which is not necessarily a good sign for the development of the characters. I feel like it was super rushed, which it was because it's a play. I mean, I am only 106 pages in and they are on their 4th year at Hogwarts already. I don't know. It was really fast. So anyway, the plot is not that great, but we are going to try to finish this today because it is time to move on. That's pretty much it. It's just time to move on. I paused last night at a really weird place, even though it's beginning of a new scene, because I really... I didn't want the plot to happen, which is, again, a really not good sign. So anyway, all in all, it's about what I expected. I knew that it wasn't very good, but I wanted to read it anyway. But I'm really not enjoying the fact that it reads like a play because it's not giving me the detail and the expansive plot that I want in a 300-page book, but it's fine. And like the things that happen in this story are canon. So it's hard to think about, like, I'm breezing through this book and I'm like, yeah, okay, but does this really count as a Harry Potter, like, universe thing? Well, it does because it's canon. I wish that she had just written another book instead of done a play. It could have been so much better. Anyway, that's all the updates I have for you for the book. We are going to be trying to finish this book today. It's going to be a little bit of a sprint because I have 200 pages left. Only read this if you're a diehard Harry Potter fan who's absolutely desperate for new content. Moving on to something a little bit more exciting. We are going to be making pumpkin pasties today as our fun fall treat to go with the book. I'm probably going to start making those now. And then while they're baking, I'm going to see how much of this book I'm going to get through. Hopefully I will at least finish Act 2, if not get most of the way through Act 3 as well, because I really want to just like go on a binge for this book today and finish it. So yeah, let's go make some pumpkin pasties and see if they're worth the hype. Hopefully they're as good as Ron and Harry and Hermione say that they are, and that they're as good as the first 7 books of the series, and that they're not as disappointing as the 8th book in the series. But a little harsh, might have been a little harsh, but it's true. It's just really not that good, guys. That makes me sad. Let's go make some pumpkin pasties. I have finished Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I liked the story a little bit more as we got into it. Again, it wasn't that great. I think that if she had written a novel about Albus instead of writing a play about Albus, then this would have been much, much better. There were a few things that made it a little hard to read for me because they weren't consistent with lore. Like, for instance, there is the use of time turners in this book, but she had purposely destroyed the time turners in Order of the Phoenix because she needed them to be destroyed in order to have the plot go on in the way that she needed it to without the ability of someone being able to go back and change anything. So she created the time turners for Prisoner of Azkaban, but then she realized that it would have messed up the plot later because people could have been like, oh, why didn't they just go back in time and fix whatever or save whoever? And so she purposely destroyed them in, what's it called? The Battle of the Department of Mysteries, when the Order of the Phoenix goes to save Sirius Black, but he's not actually there. She purposely destroyed them in that scene so that they wouldn't be an issue anymore. But then they brought them back for this book. I was just like, you can't have just like mysterious time turners going around because then the questions still remain about the lore. That's just inconsistent with the plan that she had for the rest of the Harry Potter universe. So I didn't like that there was aspects of time turners in this book. The characters, sometimes they felt like themselves, but a lot of times they didn't really feel like themselves because it seemed really forced and a little bit dramatic. I know it's supposed to be dramatic because it's a play, but again, because it was forced so much, it didn't necessarily feel like the same characters. I think the concept of Albus going to school and then being put into Slytherin could have been something that was done really well, again, if it was a novel and not a play, but it was not done well. If you're really desperate for something new in the wizarding world that you haven't gotten into yet, then this is your option. There are a few other books in the Harry Potter world that are not directly Harry Potter that I might recommend before them. Like, there's the Tales of Beedle the Bard, which is the book that Dumbledore gave Hermione in the Deathly Hallows. She's actually published a version of the Tales of Beedle the Bard. You can get Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. There's like a whole set of books. Like, I think there's a spell book, maybe Quidditch Through the Ages. They have a couple of those books where you can read and like learn more about the world and a little bit more about the history. Also, the cover makes absolutely no sense once you read the story. There's this kid, I don't know if you can see this, it's a kid in a nest with wings that looks like a golden snitch. He doesn't get trapped in any sort of nest. He doesn't have dealings with a bird. He doesn't play Quidditch. He doesn't even like Quidditch. So it's like, why is this the cover? This makes no sense. Basically what I'm trying to say is, it was okay. It wasn't great. Don't read it unless you're absolutely desperate for something new in the Harry Potter world. That's all I have to say about the book itself. As you saw last night, I also made pumpkin pasties and they were absolutely delicious. I see why Harry and Hermione and the rest of the kids at Hogwarts are so excited when the pumpkin pasties go around. Basically, they're pumpkin pies, but they're hand pies. I think they're really good. I'm personally not a huge fan of pumpkin pie, but I think the pumpkin to dough ratio is better in a hand pie. So they were really, really good. I've used the recipe where there's also a maple glaze on top if you Google it, and the maple glaze made it even better. It was delicious. So if you're looking for a treat to bake and to feel like you're in the Harry Potter world with while you're reading the Harry Potter series, I would definitely recommend pumpkin pasties. I think I'm going to give Harry Potter and the Cursed Child 2.75 stars or maybe 3 stars. I don't know. I'll probably end up going with 3 stars because I don't actually have negative feelings about the book now that it's over, but I definitely had negative feelings and just kind of wanting to get it over with and not really being invested in the story when I was reading it. Moving on. Oh, I have something in my eye. In this vlog so far, we have read 2 fantasy books, so I am ready to switch genres a little bit and mix it up. So next we are going to be reading The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. Because I had so many fantasy books on my fall TBR, I still have at least 2. Yeah, I have 2 fantasies, 1 nonfiction, and both thrillers still left on my fall TBR, which is quite a bit. And this is the only romance on my fall TBR. Yeah, this doesn't look like it's going to be that bad at all. Oh, excuse me. So I'm going to start reading this and I will check in with you guys when I get a little ways into it. This is cute. I mean, I'm still like in the first like chapter or two. Like it's very, very beginning. I'm only on page 33. But they have so many little ghost puns, and like she inserts the word ghost like whenever she can, like a ghost of a chance. It's really cute. I don't think I told you guys what this book was about before I started it, so I'll do that now. This is about a girl who works in the publishing industry. She's actually what is called a ghostwriter, and I think that it is so clever that they used a ghostwriter in this story. And like I said, they're using the word ghost like as much as possible, and it's really, really cute how they're incorporating it as much as possible. So she's a ghostwriter, and her father tragically passes away very suddenly, and so she has to go home for the first time in years, and her parents owned a funeral home. So she's at home grieving the loss of her father when a ghost shows up. She can see ghosts. It doesn't give a lot of detail, but hypothetically she solved some sort of murder with a ghost when she was in high school. But like, of course, no one took her seriously because like, who can see ghosts? But apparently she can. So one night when she's at home grieving the loss of her father, there's a ghost that shows up in the doorway, and it turns out to be her new editor. And he has obviously passed away because he's now a ghost, but he doesn't know why, and he wants to know why he died. And so they like go on a search together to find out why, and it's a romance, so obviously they end up falling in love and all that kind of stuff. And we'll see how it turns out, because you can't really be in a long-term relationship with a ghost. So, and because she's in writing, there's also a lot of references to authors and stories that exist in the real world, and obviously some of them are made up for this story so that she can like interact with them without them actually having to be someone who is in real life. But I think it's funny. Like, for instance, they just mentioned Jane Eyre. They're talking about the new editor, Ben, and her roommate says he's like a modern day Rochester, but without the wife in the attic. I heard he even had a fiance once, but he left her at the altar. I gave Rose a look. Do you even know what happens in Jane Eyre? I asked. That's great. I love that. This is definitely what I was in the mood for. This is great. I'm enjoying this so far. So many dying, killing, ghost puns. This is hilarious. I am on page 91. That is the beginning of chapter 10. And this book is really cute so far. Technically, the romance hasn't really started yet. She just got home like last chapter in order to help her family prepare for her dad's funeral. I kind of talked about this before, but it has now been confirmed. When she was in high school, she helped solve a murder with the help of a ghost because she can see ghosts. But the nice thing about Ashley Poston's writing, at least from what I've noticed in this book, is that she doesn't necessarily explain how the magic works. She just has magical realism in the books, and it's not something that's overly complicated. It's just something that kind of is, and you have to either decide to just roll with it or to basically not read the book because she's not going to explain it to you. Anyway, it's cute so far. Again, we're not really with the romance. The puns about death and ghosts are just everywhere. Every title has like dead in it. Like this one is called Dead and Breakfast. And the chapter before it was called Dead on Arrival. And the chapter before that was called Death of a Bachelor. The part of her dad dying is really, really sad. Made me tear up a little bit. But I am liking it so far. And it's definitely a book that I'm just happy that I have the day that I can just sit down and read a whole lot of it. So far it's really cute. I think that she's about to run into Ben the ghost again. So hopefully the romance will start taking off right about here. Again, it seems a little hard to think about how do you have a romance with a ghost? Or maybe it's not that her and Ben like fall in love and like they are together, because it'd be really hard to do that with a ghost. But maybe it's she helps him move on and then she believes in true love again. She's able to move on with her life. I don't know. We'll find out. So we're going to keep reading, and I will update you guys in a little bit when I'm a little bit further along. So I have an update on the Dead Romantics, and the update is that I finished it. I stayed up late last night and I completely finished this book, which means that I read this book in one day in pretty much one sitting. I didn't really have any plans yesterday, so I just sat down and completely devoured this book. It was definitely really, really cute. This is my first Ashley Pawson book, and I did enjoy it, though I can't say that I enjoyed it as much as other romance authors like Abby Jimenez. She is currently my favorite romance author because her characters are much more three-dimensional than most romance books. This book, the characters, especially the main male character, it seems like he only exists for the sake of the romance, which I mean he obviously does because this is a romance book, but he was very two-dimensional. He didn't really have much of a personality. I didn't really feel super connected to him. I mean, he was sweet, he was nice, but like I wasn't like connected to him. So overall, it's a cute story. It kept me entertained enough to read it in one day, which is obviously a really good sign. But it's definitely not like my favorite romance that I've ever read. I am interested to read The 7-Year Slip because I know that's everyone's favorite book by her. So we'll see how I like that one when I get to it. I think I'm going to rate this book a 3.5 stars. So just, you know, your middle of the road romance. I have definitely read romances that are much, much worse than this. Much, much worse. Anyway, that is The Dead Romantics. Really cute. If you are an avid romance reader, I would definitely suggest this one to you if you haven't read it. It just kind of feels more like a classic romance book, whereas other authors like Abby Jimenez add a little bit more dimension to their characters. Like I said, it's middle of the road. I would suggest it if you love romance. If you don't love romance, then maybe pick up a different romance book instead. As you guys saw earlier, we went to Waffle House, and that is the main food that they have in here. They go to Waffle House for breakfast every single morning. So in the spirit of having a snack from every book that I read, Waffle House was the contribution for The Dead Romantics because it is what they ate every single morning. So it was a fun excuse to go to Waffle House. I haven't been to Waffle House in a while. But that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this cozy fall reading vlog, this snack reading vlog, if you will. Comment down below with your favorite treat that you like to make for fall. Go ahead and hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.